The base has dropped on Atlanta, Georgia, home of a quarterfinalist in the Concacaf Champions League in 2019. Atlanta United moves on after a 4-0 win over Herediano at Fifth Third Bank Stadium in Kennesaw last night. Jason Longshore, John Nelson with you this morning. Mike Conti and Doug Robertson will also be joining us later in the show to give their thoughts on last night. And also to look ahead, because there's a different line of business on Sunday with Atlanta heading up to D.C. to face D.C. United in the MLS opener before traveling to Monterrey to face Los Rayados in the quarterfinal opener. And Monterrey has tweeted that match will be on Wednesday with an 8:05 kickoff. Waiting on Concacaf to confirm all of the matchups and everything for the following round. But that was tweeted out from Monterrey's official account. So get ready for that. Then you're back in Atlanta for the match against Cincinnati. Then you're back in Atlanta for the second leg against Monterrey. And that game is all but a sellout already. One reason is your season ticket holders already have tickets. That is a done deal. That is your 18th ticket this season. The rest of the individual tickets have been sold. I think there's a couple singles left on the Ticketmaster site. I would not be surprised if the whole stadium is opened for that one. It's a big deal. It is the matchup that everybody who has ever watched this tournament looks for these types of potential matchups. And Monterrey won this tournament 3 times in a row from 2011 to 2013. They're a powerhouse in Mexico. Outside of the major clubs in Mexico City and Chivas, it's Monterrey. They're next. And lately they have been a top club in the league. They're number 2 in the league right now. They have not lost in 2019 yet. They're second in the league behind Tigres by 1 point. They have 5 wins and 3 draws. They're one of the largest clubs in the continent. Atlanta United is one of the largest clubs in the continent as well. And I think they proved that last night with their performance. They took care of business early on, wasting no time and running out to getting the 2 goals that they needed in the first 10 minutes, and then not laying off, continuing to push the envelope, push forward, look for the third, then they looked for the fourth, and they get the 4-goal win that could have been more. It was an electric atmosphere last night, John, at Fifth Third Bank.
It was, and I know a lot of folks were concerned at early pictures that it was only half full, and
it definitely wasn't.
No. By the time it was over, you had just under 9,000 there, and it was loud. It was loud early. And the noise stayed on top of the players for the entire match. And I thought it was a very special environment. And the fact that the 17s were on top of everything from absolute jump, I thought it's one of those, it is a goosebump moment, and you sit there and you file it away as another one of those moments that you check off in the history of a franchise. And honestly, it sets you up for this round of 8 with Los Rayados at the Benz, and that's going to continue to add to the fabric that Atlanta United has been building with this quilt over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it was special last night. It's always a little easier when you get a goal in the first minute. Crazy thing is that wasn't even the first shot on goal. Gressel had a shot saved a couple of seconds before. Ball recycles from the right to the left, and Joseph pounces on a poorly attempted clearance. It's a little generous to give Brek Shea an assist there, because Omar Ariano tries to clear it. It just bounces off of him, falls right to Joseph inside the 6, and that's the automatic zone for Joseph Martinez. Let's hear the highlights from last night. Is this from the Yahoo broadcast?
This is 92.9 The Game. This is you.
All right. Hey, I know those guys. These are the highlights from 1990 game last night. Atlanta, Herediano, 4-0 win for the good guys.
And now Breck Shea in the left attacking third with a cross towards Joseph. Knocked down and scores! Less than a minute into the match. Are you not entertained? Barco back to Gressel in the box. Hit shot, score! What you gonna do when Gresselmania goes running wild on you, brother? And it's 2-0, 10 minutes into the match. Remetti now serving it to Breck Shea, who's onside in the box, crosses to Joseph, and he taps it in! For the second time tonight, Breck Shea feeds Joseph Martinez for a goal. And now Atlanta United has that valuable cushion, a 3-0 lead. Play continues in the left attacking third. Cross by Barco, flicked in for a goal by Leandro Gonzalez Perez!
Big night. It was one of those nights where the audio in my headphones was cutting out because we were getting a little loud, both us and the crowd, because it was raucous. I mean, it's one of those where you kind of had to turn the crowd down just a little bit in our ears so we could hear each other, and we didn't blow our ears out celebrating after goals because it was a wild night. Let's hear a little bit of the post-match. Our buddy Jarrett Smith got this from down on the field in the mixed zone. Who do we have in the post-match soiree here?
It is a combination of my captain, your captain, Michael Parkhurst, and it is also Julian Gressel discussing his relationship with Ezequiel Barco on the night, and Miles Robinson discussing what it was like last night as well.
It was a great performance from us. Obviously a very good start to the game. We talked about, being ready for the game. We weren't ready for it last week. We wanted to put them under pressure early in the game, and, you score a goal under a minute, and they felt the pressure.
What was that like to come out with that burst of energy, and where did it come from?
Yeah, it was great. We needed it. It was not a good performance, obviously, from us last week. We talked about rebounding from that performance and really putting them under a lot of pressure tonight, playing fast, creating chances. And when you score 2 goals in 10 minutes, it eases the feeling of everyone in the crowd, everyone on the field. We felt like we were in total control of the game from start to finish, and that's what we expected.
You guys were able to move the ball and control the ball in the middle so well between Barco and Darlington and PD. What were you seeing from your vantage point?
Yeah, our midfield was fantastic tonight. They really dominated the game. Eric was open basically the whole game. Darlington was almost flawless. Pitti and Barco put so much pressure on their back line. We had great service to Joseph. I thought everyone just did their job today. We talked about getting back to the basics, to the foundation of the team, defensively and offensively, and we did that tonight.
Yeah, it was good. I think we all played within our system, and that kind of brings out the best in everybody because you have the right players in the right spots for that, and I think that was crucial today, and it will be crucial down the road during the season. Ezequiel is a great player. It's easy to play with him because he's smart. He combines well, he passes well, and has always the eye for the open man. So it's definitely nice to have him on the right side and then be able to play with him. But if it ends up being Pitti over there as well, it doesn't really matter who that is. But as long as we play in our shape and play in our style, then I think everybody will be put in the right positions.
The offense getting 2 goals in the first 10 minutes, that kind of make it a little bit easier for you guys to defend, knowing that you had already tied it on aggregate at that point?
Definitely. It just eases our tensions a little, and it's just about keeping our foot on the gas, which we did even after those first 2 goals.
Yeah, the last bit about what it was like defending. I've seen lots of different comments about the game last night. One thing you have to keep in mind is game state. And you have to keep that in mind in both matches here in the series because, a lot of people were irate about last week's performance. You gave up a goal in the 9th minute off of a just bad individual mistake. That opened things up and it changed everything. You get 2 goals here in the first 10 minutes, and you're up on aggregate at that point. You flipped everything on its head, and everything's changed. I mean, the first goal, Herediano, you saw the heads drop. The second goal, they brought everybody together at midfield to try to say, look, let's get this going. Come on. That was a huge impact on the match. The defensive performance last night, what did they really have to do? There wasn't much to do because the possession was so strong. First half, it was 70%. You're passing at an 85% clip. You go back to last week, first half possession was 59%, and you were passing at about a 77% clip. Doesn't sound like huge differences, but it is, because Herediano, after conceding those 2 goals, basically getting punched in the mouth and punched in the gut in 10 minutes, everything is different for them. How much was the back line under pressure last night for Atlanta United? Not much.
Not much.
Not much at all. Miles Robinson played well. Leandro Gonzalez-Perez got in some trouble in the first half, got upset about some referee decisions, and we'll get into those. Was definitely on notice from the referee late in the first half. But I mentioned it in the full-time report, I believe, and I mentioned it as we were coming back into the second half. He was one of the first players out of the locker room, went up to the referee, very apologetic, went first to shake hands, talked a little bit, not animated in any bad kind of way. They talked. You could tell that they were both kind of, okay, we're cool, everything's good. That was one of those little savvy things that top professionals do. LGP realized that, okay, emotions had gotten the better of him a little bit late in the first half, upset about some calls. And after picking up a yellow, which, the yellows were inconsistent last night, and we'll get into all that in a minute because that's a different topic. But he's on a yellow. Some calls go against the team. He's very demonstrative in showing that he disagrees, and that's something any referee's going to have an issue with. Referees don't like to be shown up. So the referee late in the first half, did the classic waving of the arms. No more. That's it. You're done. No more from you. And at that point, I was concerned that Leandro might need to be subbed because you're looking at a potential second yellow on, if there's a ball over the top and it's a break and Leandro commits a foul, he's gone. And you didn't want that to happen to open the door for Herediano. You didn't want that to happen where he's going to miss the next leg. He handled it very, very well, and I thought his second half was very strong. I thought Miles Robinson was outstanding again. I thought Michael Parkhurst was very good in what he had to do, which was very little. Maybe his greatest contribution was a pass at midfield, cutting back against the grain to split 2 lines for Herediano and create another attack down the left. It was very, very strong because it fit the philosophy that is being built here. The philosophy that's taking what Tata Martino started with this club and taking it to just a slightly different place. This is a club, and it's interesting that Atlanta and Sporting Kansas City both go through on the same night with strong performances. Both clubs have made possession a hallmark of what they want to do, how they want to defend, how they want to attack, how they want to play, what they want their identity to be. And you had a match in Kennesaw where Atlanta had 70% of the possession in the first half. You had a match in Toluca where Sporting Kansas City is getting the Olay treatment for connecting passes from the Toluca crowd. That's different for American soccer and American clubs. It's very different. It's a great thing to see. We've always been kind of conditioned that American clubs, American teams, American players have to play on the counter. They're not good enough to play a possession game. I've had a conversation with an owner of an American professional club who said, we can't play like Barcelona. We don't have players that can play like Barcelona when they were the hallmark of the possession game. Yes, you can. It's just wrong to say that. Yes, you can. You can do this, and Atlanta United is going to be a team that plays that way. Sporting Kansas City made that change. They're going to play that way. Other teams in the league will play that way. Other teams will have different personalities. That's great. That's what you want. You don't want every team playing the same way. I love that you're getting identity. And for Atlanta United in Game 2 under Frank de Boer, this showed, I think, what the identity is going to be going forward. It's fluid. You can see different players in different spots on the field. It's not about that. It's not about a rigid formation. It's not about you are a right center back and that's what you do. You are a right attacking midfielder and that's what you do. It is fluid. It is playing the game that's in front of you, and it's making slight adjustments when needed based off the opposition, based off the situation. I thought everything was dialed up perfectly last night. Darlington Nagbe's inclusion was the right call. You needed to play more on the front foot. You needed to create more chances. He was the guy to bring in off the bench, did his job excellently. Good performance all the way around. Your wingbacks, which we talked about a lot, John, from the first leg, how everything felt disconnected in the attack. Didn't last night because you were stringing passes together. You were getting possessions where everybody's touching the ball and it's 20, 30 passes. That's how you get everybody involved.
Yeah. You look at the engagement of Barco and Gressel, and Julian talked about that post-match. You look at what Breck Shea was able to do up and down the left-hand side. You look at, and I'm talking both offensively and defensively, coming back and helping out LGP off of the edge. You look at what Eric Remedi was able to do, and the pass that created the goal-scoring opportunity was an amazing look in 3 dimensions for Remedi to get there, to get it to Breck, to lay it off for the goal. And I think you can honestly sit there and look at each individual last night and how they were engaged, and you can sit there and talk about different aspects of play where they were engaged, not just talking about a defender defending, not just talking about a midfielder hanging out in the center of the pitch, not just about how a forward was up. Because how many times did you see the forwards backtrack to help out defensively? And I mean deeply help things out when Herediano had possession and was trying to make some kind of a work. So I think that last night across the board, you got to see things after a week's additional work and how things are starting to come to the vision that Frank DeBoer and the staff have about their idea of a system and things. So all it is another 90 minutes, getting that under your belt, understanding what the coaches are looking for, understanding the system, understanding the guys around you, having those little societies and the short passes that we saw that were a part of the framework, just the rapid fire succession of work in very small angles and things like that. So you got to see that extra week plus that extra 90 minutes is able to show.
Look, it's about being a soccer player. It's not about being a center back. It's not about being a right back. It's not about being a 6, an 8, a 10, a left wing, a right wing, a forward. It's about playing. You need players who can play in all those roles. That's where you want to go. It's never been something that has really been talked about here. And I think some of it's down to American sports. You know, like positions are pretty rigid. Basketball's starting to get away from that a little bit. I think soccer's definitely getting away from that. You know, you look at football, you are what you are in terms of position. That's pretty much it. You don't play multiple positions. You sometimes get, offensive guards, offensive tackles interchanging a little bit, stuff like that, but it's not all that common. Here, you want guys who are talented and can play and can do multiple things. Ezequiel Barco last night ran his tail off. Gave you a defensive effort that is not normally associated with a player of his flair and his skill. He gave you a complete effort last night. All that he lacked was a goal, and he had a couple chances and couldn't put him away, but it was a great night from Barquito. You get just a two-way effort from players. You get guys who can defend. You get guys who can be dangerous in the final third. A guy like Leandro Gonzalez-Perez could play anywhere on the field. That's what you want, and you want players to be able to make those changes in transition in games as to what is needed in front of them. And I think Atlanta United has a roster that can do that and can play a very modern game. It's really refreshing to see. So when you look at this thing and you look at this series, I don't think the first leg was nearly as bad as the scoreline indicated. We've talked about that for a week now. The second leg, the way you came out and took advantage of an Herediano team that I think Hernan Medford blinked when he was filling out his lineup card, going to an unfamiliar shape for them. They've played 4-4-2 pretty much every match this season. The only real variation has been a little bit in what you do up top, where it might play more like a 4-2-3-1 or a 5-4-1-1. That's subtle. That's again, it goes back to formations are overrated. It's just your forward is going to drop a little bit deeper, but it's the same general principles. When he went to 3 center backs, and it was unclear, and one reason it's unclear is because it didn't work. 3 center backs, you had 2 outside backs. Were they wing backs? Were they outside backs playing in a line of 5? Was it supposed to be a 5-4-1? Was it supposed to be a 4-5-1? Was it supposed to be a 4-3-3? I couldn't tell you because they haven't played that way, and it didn't work, and they were, found out 2 goals in 10 minutes, and then they changed, and then they looked a little bit better. Medford blinked. Medford also, I think, ruined his chances by playing Jimmy Marine, Randalazo Feifa, a whole bunch of minutes on Sunday in a league match that they ended up losing, so it wasn't even valuable. Marine really had little impact last night. Azofeifa was not the man of the match that he was in Heredia. It shows how you have to manage a whole situation now. Atlanta United's in that situation. You have a league match on Sunday. What's the lineup going to look like? There's going to have to be a couple first-team guys in that lineup because you're a little thin at center back and a little thin at central midfield right now due to some injuries. You don't have Kevin Kratz. You haven't had him in preseason. You don't have Franco Escobar. You haven't had him in preseason. You're going to have to play some guys some minutes that maybe you wouldn't want to. And how does Frank de Boer handle that? Who else gets an opportunity, and what do they do with that opportunity? Those are going to be the storylines as we get closer to Sunday in D.C. We're going to get into your overreactions, underreactions, on-par reactions after the break. Tweet at us at Soccer Down here with your thoughts from last night, your thoughts looking ahead to D.C., any other thoughts on the landscape as we are a day away from the start of the 2019 MLS season. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Supporters of Atlanta United.
Yeah, here's this dude's opening sentence
Atlanta Youth Football Club.
From this article that I came across.
Contact Steve today.
Before the match, Atlanta United's chances of advancing to the next round of the Concacaf Champions League were slim.
9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey
No.
Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it
Yeah,
again,
I don't know what
and felt that it
Daniel
was cold.
Carroll or Carell.
just letting you know
I don't
you
know what
did
his
good.
background
Bear
is.
hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm going to let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire. But
And I'm
one
waiting
way
for the
to
email to pop.
Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, March 1st. Team No Sleep rolls on. I think I got home about 1 o'clock last night, so button mashing is proving to be a little difficult this morning. John was talking to me about an article that was out there from a national media writer. I have not seen it yet, but what was going on with this, John? Did somebody just not know what they were talking about, or what happened?
Opening sentence. Before the match, Atlanta United's chances of advancing to the next round of the Concacaf Champions League were slim.
I mean,
that's his opening sentence.
That's I mean, it could be worse.
But to me, that's just, it's not doing your homework.
but I mean, it's 3-1. It's not like it's not. I wouldn't say it's wrong. I'd say it's overly negative based off the quality of the two teams, and there's some unfamiliarity with the tournament because it's a 1 goal difference instead of a 2, but I wouldn't have said Tigres' chances of moving on were slim with the second leg. It goes back to what we've talked about. This is new territory, and Atlanta had never been in the situation they were in last night. They had never been in a situation where after the first leg of 180 minutes, they were trailing. It never happened before, so you didn't really have any history to fall back on. Last year in the playoffs, you won the first leg both times, once on the road, once at home. I didn't think it was slim.
No.
I got the Atlanta scoreline right. I thought Herediano would get one. I went 4-1 yesterday. But I expected that bounce back. We also get a chance to see this team week in and week out. And if you didn't watch the entire match in Costa Rica, and you just looked at the scoreline, and you just thought, oh, well, yep, they're not as good as we thought they were, then, you could say something like that.
And then I've got another later in the article as I'm scrolling down.
Give me the next
Whether due to early season jitters, the playing surface, or rustiness, Atlanta United did not look its former self in the first leg of the encounter.
That's fair. What's wrong with that?
I'm thinking, okay, you've got a new coach, you've got new personnel, you've got to tweak in a system. I don't know. I mean, playing surface, they didn't water it. But
no, I think the playing surface part's been overstated a little bit. It wasn't that much of an impact on the match last week.
And for rustiness, it was their first competitive match of the year.
Yeah,
with a new coach, and a new system. Well,
It's clunky, but I don't think it's necessarily like wrong. It's far better than posting a poll asking if Atlanta United's going to make the playoffs or not.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, this is Pulitzer Prize winning stuff compared to that.
Oh, goodness gracious. I saw that.
They lost 3-1 on the road. They're not making the playoffs when 7 teams out of 12 do. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
And Orlando City is one of those 12.
Yeah, there's that. There's definitely that. People enjoyed your asides during the break, though, so that was good. I'm glad I could screw that up and give that to everybody. That was a good time. God, it's crazy. I feel more tired. This is what happens
when you're battling a sinus infection, #team no sleep, and all this kind of stuff is going on. It's to open the fourth wall here a little bit. Over the last couple of days, I've been battling a massive sinus cold. And the number of times that I have had to hit the mute button during conversations and during the show, it has been astronomical. And so the level of coughing, sneezing, snorting, punchiness, and combining that with team no sleep, I'm a little ball of hate right now.
You say that again. You are a little ball of what?
Little ball of hate.
All right, I'm going to be a big ball of hate for a minute. I apologize in advance, but this stuff makes my head want to explode. Paul Tenorio just went full thread on everybody about the LA Galaxy designated player situation.
Saw this. Go for it.
Here we go. All right, hold on. Let me take a sip of this blueberry Red Bull that I need because there wasn't a peach.
Oh, you went blueberry this morning.
There wasn't a peach one. Peach one, for some reason, Quick Trip's running out of the peach Red Bull because it's selling so much, I guess. So let me take a sip so I'm ready for this nonsense.
Clear your throat.
All
Get
right.
the arms going forward.
Paul Tenorio tweeted.
Engage.
At 9:10. I spent about 4 hours on the phone yesterday afternoon, evening, talking through this Geo thing with different people around the league. It was a doozy of a day. Gonna thread this out. First tweet. It sounded legitimately like no clear decision had been made as of last night. However, people familiar with the thinking inside the Galaxy said LA was confident they would get their way. Quote, basically daring the league to say no. Next tweet. The funny thing is that there's a very clear, easy decision to make with Gio Dos Santos. Force the Galaxy to either buy out or trade a designated player. Every other solution is being tailored as a way to allow the Galaxy to keep 4 designated players. Ding, 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 ding. General manager's rightly upset, but also feeling like this is the moment where the system really starts to fall apart. Quote, how can you have roster compliance after this? Unquote, one asked. For example, why should a team like the Fire trade for 2 international spots if the Galaxy can keep 4 designated players? It's a valid question. Tenorio then tweeted next. The sentiment was that the league just lacks the spine to say no to AEG in the Galaxy. Insanity. Next. And there are GMs who are going to feel more empowered to push things through. I expect you will see multiple teams play around with contracts going forward. Yes. If the league is basically going to be dared to say no and they don't, yeah, I would be writing all kinds of crazy contracts. He's getting paid $1 this year. Next year he's getting paid $7 million. No, he's roster compliant. It's all good. He's not a designated player. We're paying him in snacks. It's ridiculous. But again, next tweet from Tenorio. But again, if a restructured contract is announced tonight, it's exactly what it looks like. MLS is allowing the Galaxy to play the 2019 season with 4 designated players, and it is doing so despite no other team in the league being allowed to do so. And I would add that it's doing so at the very end of the roster compliance season when other teams made decisions, looked at the rules, and said, you know what, we're going to follow these rules because they're rules. We expect the league to enforce them. The Galaxy come along and say, ha, 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 we are the LA Galaxy. We don't have to play by the rules because the league doesn't make us play by the rules. We're going to do what we want and make them say no at this point because they don't want to say no to Giovanni Dos Santos. They want Gio in the league. We're going to force their hand. If they get away with that, it's wrong. It's wrong. There's just no other way around it. Tenorio linked to his piece about the league opening up, the massive transformation going on. It's a great piece. Go check it out at The Athletic. It says, at a time when MLS looks like it's all grown up, they fall back on old bad habits. Yes, this has happened before. This is, in my opinion, the most blatant of these. It's almost hard to compare it to previous old bad habits in terms of letting the Galaxy do what they want, but there you go. Tenorio said, can't get out of their own way. It's embarrassing and actually quite frustrating as someone whose job it is to cover MLS like a serious league. I'm waving my hand over here saying, yes, I agree with you, Paul Tenorio. It is very frustrating because serious competitive leagues do not make a move like this the day before the season starts to destroy the competitive integrity of the competition that is about to take place. Because that's what this does. Why follow any rules? Why worry about anything? Why say, well, we can't do that? That's against the rules that we've set. Why? Why should you think that way? I'll tell you what, if the Galaxy are allowed to do this, if I am FC Dallas, Orlando City, any other team right now that has multiple players on their roster making more than the designated player threshold, and I would have to use TAM or GAM that I was planning to do because I'm playing by the rules. If I was going to do that today to be roster compliant, I would be sitting back and saying, nope, I'm not spending that TAM. I'm not spending that Monopoly money. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to go sign another player because you're letting them do it. I'm not spending it. Dare me.
Yep.
That's exactly what I would say. If I am Dan Hunt in Dallas, that's what I would say. I would say, you know what? I have to spend some TAM to be roster compliant. No. Make them be roster compliant. Then I'll click that box to move that Monopoly money from one bucket to another. Otherwise, I'm going to use it to go buy another player because that's what they did. Orlando should absolutely say that. 100%. Instead of spending whatever allocation money they need to spend, I can't remember which player it is that they would have to buy down. Doesn't matter. I would say, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to use this to go sign another player. It's wrong. It's just flat out wrong. There's no way to spin it. I don't want to spin. I don't want anybody to try to say, well, this might be good for the league going forward. Maybe it is because the rules change, but right now, in the 2019 season, the LA Galaxy are going to get a competitive advantage. Yes, they're going to have Giovanni Dos Santos on the roster, and that might not be a true competitive advantage. But according to the rules, he should not be if they're going to do this. Or one of the other guys should not be. They should not be allowed to do this. It makes a joke of the rules. It makes a joke of the competitive integrity, and this league has come way too far for this. This league has come way too far for this type of nonsense. This is 2005 stuff where you're moving the rules around to make things more compelling. You don't have to make things more compelling right now. You don't have to let the Galaxy have 4 designated players to make them interesting. They have Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He's going to go out and tell Jimmy Kimmel crazy things at night on the late night show to make things interesting. And
he's going to break records that aren't even made yet to be broken.
Sure, and yes, and what's more interesting, having him on your roster or having Giovanni Dos Santos go to Las Vegas on a weekend? I mean, come on. Like, this is ridiculous. This league is better than this. This league is of a higher standard than this. This league has had to go through all the tough times that it did to get to this point where you're getting international deals done on broadcast all over the world. You're getting more relevant in this country than you've ever been. You're getting 70,000 people for an MLS Cup final, and you're getting more attention for that match last year than you've ever had for an MLS Cup final in your history. You're getting more people looking at this and more people taking this seriously than you've ever had in your league's history, and you're going to do this and make all those people who have put all their time and energy and thought in selling this league and saying this is a big deal, you should follow this, you should pay attention to this. Yeah, there's some crazy rules out there. Yes, there's some weird things that happen, but it's because of X, Y, and Z, and that's why it is. Now, people are going to say, well, why are they able to do this? Shrug emoji, I don't know. Because they're the LA Galaxy, because they can do what they want. It's not okay. It's not right. It's not okay. It's a bad thing for this league going forward. There better be a rewrite of the rules associated with this, because if you just allow them to buy him down and re-sign him to a new deal and move money around, one, the Players Association is going to have a problem with it because you're changing how much money he was promised, and that's not right. He better get all of his money, or you're going to have an issue negotiating on the CBA. 2, if you're going to do that, then you better change the rules about buying out contracts or buying players down, or how you can allocate transfer fees to salary cap hits or what have you. You better change the rule as you do this, because this can't be an LA Galaxy solution. If you make the decision, you know what, it's best for the league to allow them to have Giovanni Dos Santos and allow them to have 4 designated players, you better change the rule right now so tomorrow any team can go get a 4th designated player if they want to, because the window's still open. This can't be allowing the Galaxy to do something, breaking the rules, and just winking and nodding. If you're going to do this, it better change a rule, and teams better be allowed tomorrow to go back out into the market and add a 4th designated player, because there's teams who would. Get it right, MLS. You're better than this. You didn't go through all of the hard times, all of the ridiculousness, all of the stuff that you've went through over 20-plus years to get to this point where you're more relevant than ever before, you're stronger than ever before, you're more compelling than ever before, and allow the Galaxy to basically have an out from mismanaging their offseason. It's wrong, and I hope MLS gets this right, and I hope they hold their ground here. And if Giovanni Dos Santos has to get bought out or he can't get registered on the roster today, so be it. The Galaxy should have solved this problem, and they shouldn't have waited for the league to bail him out or dared the league to say no. The league needs to say no. The league needs to handle this right. We'll see if they do. I'm sure Paul Tenorio, I'm sure Sam Stajkal, I'm sure all of the folks who cover this on a national basis will be talking about this all day long until there's an announcement. And I would also expect that there's not going to be an announcement until very late tonight after
news
5 o'clock, whatever. Yeah, it's going to be one of those deals where the rosters get published a few hours before the first kick tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and we're all going to say, well, that's what we expected. Giovanni Dos Santos on the roster, and he's not a designated player. There's no way to justify it. I really hope they get this right. I am crossing my fingers and just sitting back and hoping that the league gets this right, because otherwise you don't have a lot of competitive integrity in this season. And otherwise also the Galaxy sure better win the Western Conference and get the MLS Cup.
Yeah.
Because if they get 4 designated players and they don't, that's a whole different conversation. Let's take a break. we'll keep you posted on this and anything else that breaks during the show. We've got Mike Conti joining us at 10 o'clock. We've got Doug Robertson joining us at 10:30. We're going to talk more about last night. We'll also look ahead to Sunday because Atlanta goes to D.C. to face a team that is a contender in the Eastern Conference in my mind and is a team that has had a kind of rough preseason. They've had a lot of injury issues. I don't know what we're going to see on the field from D.C. United on Sunday. I don't know what we're going to see on the field from Atlanta United on Sunday either. It's a very odd match to open the season Sunday night. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. March 1st, one day away from the kickoff of the MLS season in 2019, and we've got some stuff that you guys need to get involved in. The Fantasy League is back. John, have we tweeted this out recently with the sign-up link and everything from our friend Jason Wright? And I think we lost John. That's one of those mornings, y'all. John will be back here in a minute. Yes, we will tweet out the fantasy link, how to sign up, all of the things. Yeah, he's back now.
Sir.
All right.
See, little ball of hay. No, we have not tweeted it recently, sir.
So you talk during the breaks. You don't talk when I throw it to you on the show. It's one of those days, huh?
2 for 2, brother. Team no sleep.
Seriously, good grief. We'll tweet that out here in just a second. You have to fill out a form. You get the link to sign up. It is a fun competition. We had over 100 sign up last year. The goal is to get to 200 this year. So all you got to do is set up a team on the official MLS fantasy site over at MLSsoccer.com. Then click the link and get the sign up code to join the Soccer Down Here League. We'll give you updates. Looks like every Tuesday on the league, who's doing what. We'll talk a little bit about some players to watch in the league, stuff like that on Tuesdays. We also have the Bailey Daily poll, Josh Bailey, JBailey86 on Twitter, and our predictions this year are presented by our friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates, sponsors our tailgate shows with the faction as well. You can make your pick in the poll, and this is maybe the trickiest poll of the year for the Sunday match. You can pick if Atlanta's going to win, by how much, if it's going to be a draw, if Atlanta's going to lose. I'm shrug emojiing this one, too, because I have no idea what the lineup's going to be for either team.
You got about an hour.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll figure it out. You know Atlanta's situation, and I think you're going to see a lot of squad rotation because you have to. DC, Lucas Rodriguez, their big signing, played 33 minutes in their preseason finale. He's had a hip injury all preseason, so he hasn't played very much. They were spanked in the preseason finale by Montreal 3-0. looked really bad. I don't know what they're going to look like on Sunday. Oh, and yeah, also let's throw in the fact that it could be a winter storm. Yeah.
That you're flying into.
Yeah. Good times. Snow, rain, sleet, ice,
layers,
what it could be, stuff, cold, bad, orange ball maybe. I don't know. It's going to be one of those days.
Team No Sleep Orange Ball.
Yeah, I have no idea. So Sunday is going to be weird. I do know that much. It's going to be weird with the lineup. It's going to be weird with the game. But make sure you're kind of joining in all season long on these two different things. Game day predictions with Josh Bailey and presented by Steve Apolinski. And in the Fantasy League, presented by the Jason Wright Agency. Go ahead and get your sign-up done for that. You can join the league today. Make your team on MLS Fantasy. I know a lot of you do that anyway. And then join the league so you're part of the conversation with us.
Yes, considering that neither you nor I made the postseason last year.
Oh,
and
I
think that
whenever I put them on a fantasy team, I jinx them. So I try to not pick players that I don't want to jinx.
And and I'm looking, and I want to see what the vision is for year two. And I'd love to have more folks involved than were last year. And I'd love to see the league continue to grow to where there's 11 billion players in the league. That's just me.
Yeah. Question from the Colonel after my rant about the Galaxy. I said, we're still borrowing trouble, but if the Galaxy submit a 4 designated player roster and are allowed to proceed, is there a number of points deducted that makes it kind of okay? No, there's not.
No.
I don't want nonsense like that. That's even more confusing to people. I mean, can you imagine talking to LA Sports Talk Radio, who I don't think really covers the Galaxy much except when Zlatan says something crazy. Can you imagine trying to explain to them, well, yeah, the Galaxy won in the opening weekend, but they have negative 3 points on the season. Like, it makes it even more confusing. Well. It's just, no, it's not a, well, we're going to give you this penalty. It's yes or it's no. That's what it should be from the league. You can't, it's not a luxury tax situation where, okay, we'll sacrifice some points if we're allowed to have this guy. No, it's yes or no, and that's what it should be. They should not. It's not about submitting a roster and hoping it's allowed. I mean, this is breaking a rule flat out. This is just breaking the rule and expecting the league to allow it, and the league has to say no. Otherwise, why should anybody else follow the rules? I would do the exact same thing in every situation. Okay, you've got Ezequiel Barco, and he's getting paid $1.5 million a year, but you paid $15 million in a transfer for him. I would say, well, you know what? We paid that transfer already. We don't think it should be allocated to his salary cap hit. And we're going to use some TAM to buy him down because we restructured his deal to take it to $1.1 million, and we're giving him a bonus of concert tickets, which you can't put that on the cap. So, yeah, that's how it's going to work, and we should be able to use TAM, and we're going to go sign somebody else.
Bojangles biscuits.
That's a pretty good bonus. That's what you're looking at. And none of that's okay. If you're going to have a rule, follow the rule. No point deduction. No, you're not compliant. And you want to play hardball? What time do the Galaxy play tomorrow? I can't remember what their schedule is this weekend. They play this weekend. Hey, you got to get your roster right before you can take the field. Otherwise, you're going to forfeit. You want to have that one on your hands? You want to have that one to deal with here? Because it's really simple. It's really simple. The LA Galaxy buy Giovanni Dos Santos out and say adios. That's it.
8 Eastern on FS1 against Chicago.
Well, you got till 7 o'clock to get roster compliant. That's the way I would play it. You find a trade partner. As I said before, as this first came up, if you want to bend the rules in a way that logically makes sense, and I don't think is giving them a competitive advantage, because that's my problem with it. The rules are one thing, and breaking the rules and not caring about the rules. What? Okay, yes, that's over here. That's an issue. You're gaining a competitive advantage by doing that. That's wrong. You should not be allowed to do that. If the league wants to bend the rules to allow them to trade him to another team in the league but still pay his salary, if there's not another team that'll say, we're not giving him $6 million, okay, but there's another team who will take him on their roster, and the Galaxy still have to pay his salary, and you're allowed to clear that designated player spot, I'm okay with that because the Galaxy aren't gaining an advantage that way. That part's fine. If you want to loan him to another team in the league and pay his salary, I'm okay with that. They're not gaining an advantage by having him on the roster. That's my number one issue with it. I think so many things are getting thrown into this that you're talking about a team potentially fielding a better roster than the other team on the field that day because they're allowed to have 4 designated players. That is wrong. There's no way to spin it. You can't do that. If you're going to bend the rules for them, tell them they can pay his salary, but he's got to be on another roster and he's got to play for somebody else. Or you got to buy him out. I'm okay with the solution of bending the rules to allow them to pay his salary for him to play somewhere else. That's fine. I can reconcile that. It makes sense, John. I mean, you're not getting an advantage by fielding him in a lineup that way.
Yeah.
You're still having to deal with your bad contract situation. That's fine.
Yep. I just, once again, being the resident negative on the show, why am I just anticipating nothing happening in this? That's just where my brain is right now.
Chris Kilroy's right. All right, if this happens, let's talk Atlanta United transfer targets this weekend for the 4th designated player. Let's go. Because
midfield.
That would be what would happen. Hey, I signed him to a contract. Yes, he is sort of a designated player. He is a DP-ish player.
Yes,
I mean
DP-ish.
Is Gio a DP-ish guy now? Is that where we're at? Is he DP-ish? I mean, I don't know. We're gonna
if it looks like a DP, walks like a DP,
well, it doesn't
and
look like one because
like a DP.
Well,
is it a DP?
Play? Have you seen him play? He doesn't look like one. That's a bad contract. But you don't get to absorb
But that's
that.
a you problem.
Exactly. You got to buy him out, or you got to find a place for him to play other than in a Galaxy shirt this year. And if Jonathan doesn't like that, well, so be it. And if you got to play hardball with Roman Alessandrini, then so be it. You got to figure something out. You can't be allowed to do this. It's not okay. We'll see what happens. But we're going to take a break, come back and wrap up hour number 1 after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life, young adults of unique determination and experience, an ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Finishing up hour number 1 of soccer down here. I hope nothing else happens with the Galaxy stuff in hour number 2 because it's just so annoying. So annoying. I disagree. I really, 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 really disagree with the point deduction. And I guess the biggest reason I do is for years and years and years, the joke about MLS has been that it's Calvin ball. If you're a Calvin and Hobbes fan, like it's Calvin ball. It's a made-up thing, and it's not real. It's not legitimate. There's somebody pulling the strings in the background. That's always been the running joke, and at times it's been hard to push back on that. I thought the league had outgrown that. I really did. Maybe not. Maybe not. I do remember Lexi Lawless's tweet, John, from the beginning of this process about, it's a single-entity league. The league can change the rules to benefit the collective, all that. Totally agree. Totally agree. If this involves a rule change, I hate the timing of it, but okay. Yeah. All right. If it doesn't, and it is just, you know what, we're going to let you restructure his deal, even though we wouldn't do that for anybody else, that's the problem, and there's no point penalty that makes that okay.
It's the whole idea of it's the LA Galaxy, and we're doing it just for them, and it's being single and selective, and it's not cool. It's 100 pounds and not cool. And
I'm with Michael Ruiz here. If the Galaxy still have 4 designated players after 7 o'clock tonight, how quickly are we buying Juan Quintero? We have a pretty good history with River Plate right now.
Book it.
Yes. Done.
Book it, brother.
Get it done. Whoever else you want to go get, do it, because, hey, the door's wide open. It's silly. It's MLS sometimes, and I wish it was MLS less of the time, because I really do think the league's outgrown some of this. What it does point out, and I think Paul Tenorio is correct, and other people who have said this are correct, it does point out that the league needs to address this. The league, there was a little bit of concern that you were going to have the owners who didn't want to spend force a rule change to only have 2 designated players. Well, that's definitely not going to happen. It really needs to go the other way. You really need to look at 4 designated players, or restructuring what designated players are and how allocation money is used, and X and Y and Z. You have to look bigger. That is what's happening here. Is you have teams, you have the capability, the desire, the want to go sign better players and have more top players in their team, more top players want to come to this league. Open it up a little bit more. Doesn't mean it needs to be the Wild Wild West. Salary caps are fine. Rules are fine. Keep spending in somewhat in line so you have some version of parity. Completely cool. Good with that. I think it's a benefit to the league. But the way it's currently structured right now is too stifling to the teams that are trying to take this league to another level. And the Galaxy are one of those teams. I just don't like the way they're going about it. And I don't think you can do it this way and have any true competitive integrity. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep you posted. We'll start looking at MLS. We'll start looking at Sunday in D.C. We'll also look back a little bit more at last night. Mike Conti from 92.9 The Game joins us after the break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, Overreaction Friday. We've had lots of overreaction about Major League Soccer and the LA Galaxy. Too much, if you ask me. Let's have some reactions about last night. Let's have some reactions looking ahead to Sunday. And let's get some reactions from Mike Conti. What's up, Mike?
Wongshu. John, what's going on?
Not much. Railing against the league. You know, it's what we do around here at times. We'll see who Atlanta United signs as a 4th designated player when the Galaxy are allowed to have 4. We'll see what happens after the roster compliance deadline. But let's look back at last night. We talked about it on the full-time report. We talked about it a lot during the broadcast. It was a different-looking Atlanta United last night. They looked a whole lot more comfortable playing this way, didn't they?
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm having all kind of sports talk debates here at 92.9 this morning. Ooh. I walk in, and the first thing that Kamla hit me with was, I bet they were really embarrassed about the way they played at Herediano, and they looked like a team that was embarrassed in the first 10 minutes. I don't think that at all.
It's a little bit of a reach, but I mean, they weren't happy.
I think they were determined.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any doubt about that. But yeah. It's like we've been saying for the last 8 days now. Atlanta United really didn't play all that badly in Costa Rica. 3-1 scoreline may have been a little bit misleading. You were playing against a club in Herediano last week that had a 9-match head start. They had a running start. I think last night what we saw was that talent gulf that exists between Atlanta United and Herediano. But I think what was vitally important was that Atlanta United jumped on them extremely early, scored the fastest goal in club history. That was very, very important because Herediano, it kind of felt to me like they were flailing all night. And Hernan Medford could not manage that in such a way where he could put his team in position to respond to that early onslaught. So I think part of it was Herediano's tactical and lineup changes. I think that played right into the hands of Atlanta United. I think Darlington Nagbe, who, as I said last Friday with you guys, was a problem solver in the 30-some minutes that he played in Costa Rica, played an excellent match last night. We saw evidence that Atlanta United can move the ball through the middle of the park a lot better when Nagbe is in. But I think also Atlanta United converted last night. I mean, we talked about in Costa Rica, you had 3 very good chances after Herediano got their 3rd goal. A Joseph header that usually he buries, a Nagbe shot from distance, and then Tito hitting the post right from the end. Last night, Atlanta United converted. And that was kind of the season last year when they won the MLS Cup. When they were converting, when they were finishing, they were scary. They were almost unbeatable. They did not do a very good job finishing off their chances last Thursday. They did a very good job doing it last night.
So then, since you've talked about the middle and Nagbe, and we can get into Remedi in just a little bit, which wing would you like to address first? Breck Shea on the left or the relationship with Barco and Gressel on the right?
Let's start with Breck Shea. I've been using this word a lot this month. I'll use it again. I was very smitten by Breck Shea's performance last night. And Jay Riddle and I have had an ongoing discussion about how I think we both think Breck Shea, if he plays enough matches, is going to have an opportunity to be comeback player of the year in MLS this year. I mean, for the first time in, 5-6 years, Breck Shea's playing on a pretty good team.
Ooh, Mike, we have a bit of breaking news.
Uh-oh. There you go.
Go ahead.
Atlanta United signs first-round Super Draft selection Anderson Aseyadu to an MLS contract.
Guess who's starting on Sunday?
Anderson Aseyadu.
He's got to, right?
Yeah, that was the one. We talked about it last night, what the lineup looks like, and central midfield was a spot that we're like, Eric Remedi, Darlington Nagbe might have to go some minutes here.
Yeah. Yeah. Now
Here
I think
comes
it's
the enforcer.
Right. Now I think
Double
it's a Seydu, a Sayadu, a Seddu. We'll get an official pronunciation by Sunday, I promise. Let's say it's a Seddu for now. It's a Seddu and Lorenowitz in the middle on Sunday. It's got to be, right? It's got to be.
Yeah, I would agree. All right,
so
back to where we were. Sorry about that.
Yes, Breck Shea. But by the way, I'm really pumped for Anderson. I think that's great. I don't know where that leaves Atlanta United with international spots. I'm wondering about Gordon
ATL UTD2.
Yeah, and I'm wondering where this might leave a guy like John Gallagher or Gordon Wild. Well, we'll get into that later. Breck Shea, for the first time in 4 or 5 years, he's playing on a good team with good teammates. It's amazing how good someone looks when he's playing on a good team, right? But I thought Shea did a remarkable job last night, being that link down the left wing, getting back defensively, being responsible in that regard, but also providing Joseph with the service and assisting on 2 of his goals. And by the way, and this is another thing that we've been debating here at 92.9 this morning, and it's Rick again, well, that shows you how much better he is than George Bello. I don't read it that way at all.
Yeah, I disagree.
I don't think George Bello played poorly in Costa Rica. I think Herediano went at him a little bit, as any team would in a home match against a 17-year-old who doesn't have a lot of international experience. I understand it. I don't think he played poorly in Costa Rica at all.
Nope.
I think the club would like for George Bello to be the guy at the end of the season who's your first choice at left wing back. But boy, does Breck Shea give you some really quality depth. And that's going to be vital now coming up over the next week, where you're going to play 3 matches in the span of 8 days. And we don't know where Bello is health-wise right now. But boy, is it nice now where if Bello were to be healthy in time for Sunday, you would be able to play Bello fresh against DC United, Shea fresh at Monterey next Wednesday, and then make a coin flip decision next Sunday against Cincinnati. It'd be a very good problem to have.
Yeah, well, there's 2 other players that would also like to get into the left wing back sweepstakes. Mikey Ambrose, who has been very good in his time here. Yeah. He's just had an unfortunate injury last year that took him out of action. He's looked good in preseason. And Jose Hernandez, who just really hasn't had an opportunity yet, a little slow to adapt last year. I think when you're looking at international slots, Hernandez is a guy who's going to be on an ATL UTD2 loan. I think he's going to have to be at least early on. So wouldn't surprise me to see Ambrose either as a center back or as a left wing back on Sunday.
The other thing that Atlanta United could do, as we go back to the Asedu discussion and loaning players to ATL UTD2 to work out the international spots, and Jose Hernandez comes into that discussion as well. Hey, MLS, you're going to let LA Galaxy have 4 designated players?
Here we go.
Try to stop us now with their international spots.
Let's see what international slots? We don't know. What are they?
Yeah. I don't. I mean, the players' union might have a problem with that. I don't know if we can work that out. What are we going to do? And then let the league do something. I mean, I don't think Atlanta United would do that. But with what is presently occurring with LA Galaxy, it's like we've talked about, guys. It's open season right now for any of the 24 clubs in this league to flout the roster rules. So, okay. Oh, yeah, well, we'll work out the international spots eventually. But right now, this is what we're going to have. Try to stop us. And what are they going to do?
I think the line should be, get me a number 2 pencil because they're testing me. I mean, this is just this is ridiculous.
Choose B.
Yeah.
We don't know what international slots are, sir. We have no idea what you're talking about. We are roster compliant. There's players on it.
Right. We have a roster of players.
There's 50 of them. Well, we don't.
We could get turned into Chelsea.
Yeah. Give us the name and email address of your roster auditor, and we'll be in touch with him or her in 4 to 6 weeks.
Yes. Oh, man, this is going to be a ridiculous day in the world of MLS on social media. Let's look ahead a little bit more to Sunday. So, DC United, I think they're a contender in the Eastern Conference. I also think they are extremely thin They don't have a deep roster. They have 20 field players on it, and a couple of those guys are brand new homegrown signings. What do you think DC and their mentality should be coming into this, looking at a team that's not going to be at full strength in Atlanta United? I mean, is it all guns blazing for DC United and a must for 3 points?
I think they're smelling blood, don't you? And it has nothing to do with any weakness of Atlanta United. I think they're going to probably assume, as we are assuming, that it could be a second-choice lineup, even all the way down to the goalkeeper for Atlanta United on Sunday. So let's put the roles in reverse. Let's say that DC United is in Concacaf Champions League, and Atlanta United is going to play their home opener at the Benz on Sunday, and you find out that Acosta and Rooney and Amid and Canals and their first-choice guys are not going to play because they have to play Thursday night in Concacaf Champions League. You're going to be smelling blood, right? The difference is DC United is so thin from a depth standpoint that I think Atlanta United can still go in to DC and get a result on Sunday. You're still looking at Tito Villalba potentially starting for you. You're looking at a midfield of Lorenowitz and Asedu. I think you can be okay there. Mikey Ambrose, I think, is probably going to be in your starting lineup. Alec Can has a lot of MLS experience in goal. If Frank de Boer chooses to go in that direction, I don't think it'd be a bad idea. The neutralizer in all this is going to be conditions, and it's not looking good at all. It's looking like a very heavy, cold rain turning to snow during the match and accumulating snow. So really, honest to God, guys, this is one of those YOLO. Whatever happens in this match. Atlanta United, if they go second choice and conditions are just awful and they go in there and they don't get a result, I can live with that because so many things are outside of their control right now. But as far as how DC approaches this, they've got the champs coming into their park for the only time this year. This is an Eastern Conference match. It's vitally important for DC, even at this early juncture. I think they'll probably be smelling blood a little bit, and they'll go for it.
I think John might have disappeared again.
I got worried for a second. I'm like, was my take so hot that I blew up the phone line?
Spicy.
He was having another moment of little ball of hate that he's had for the last couple days.
Poor John. By the way, do Soccer Down Here listeners understand just how banged up John Nelson is right now, and yet he pushes through all of this to continue the show. He's got a real.
I don't have to talk tomorrow. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Rest your voice. Some throat coat, honey, and lemon will work.
You ain't lying, brother. But I mean, you're talking about a team right now in Atlanta United, Mike. Played last night, playing DC over the weekend, playing in Monterey, probably midweek because of what Monterey has already put out on their Twitters. Then you've got the home opener coming up in a week's time. So it's a delicate balance right now for Atlanta United in trying to figure things out. But right now, everything, all the collective muscle thrown at CONCACAF Champions League for this two-leg series against Los Rayados that has hemispheric consequences for both of these sides.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, quite frankly, to not downplay the importance of MLS. You don't get a parade when you win CONCACAF Champions League. You do get a parade when you win the MLS Cup. But quite frankly, what you've got right now is, I think, one of the biggest opportunities this club has ever had right there with playing in the MLS Cup final. And that's a two-leg series against Monterey, arguably the best team in MLS against arguably one of the best, if not the best teams in Liga MX. One of three quarterfinal series where MLS and Liga MX are going head-to-head. Something that I think carries more implications than the Campeones Cup in August, to be totally honest with you. I know you don't win a trophy if you win this two-leg series, but still. And I think most Atlanta United supporters will understand. I mean, we're seeing reaction here at the radio station today, just on the text line, on social, on people that are calling in. People are engaged in this CONCACAF Champions League at a level that I think even exceeds how they're engaged in a regular season MLS match. There was a lot of enthusiasm about the result last night. I hope you guys noticed that too. So I think supporters will understand. You know, if you roll out a second choice lineup on Sunday and you don't get a result, if you come back and you get a result down in Monterey, it's all good. And then you've got a string of home matches, both in MLS and Concacaf, where you can get your sea legs back and have the benefit of not having to travel. So honestly, I look at Sunday as a, just kind of weather the storm moment now for this club. And no pun intended, because the conditions are going to be really bad. But it's 1 out of 34 matches. And I'm not saying that it's not important. It absolutely is important. And you certainly don't want to have a lopsided result go against you and put you into goal difference problems. But I think this fan base right now is kind of on the same page as us, that Concacaf Champions League is the first priority, and you have to do what it takes to put yourself in position to get the result Wednesday in Monterey, even if it means not going first choice in D.C.
All right. As we wrap up this series in the round of 16, we do have to say a little bit about our friends with Herediano. I thought it was amazing to see how many people traveled. Lots of Herediano fans. Not quite as many as Atlanta took down there, but not all that far off. We saw Herediano fans at Twin Peaks for Dukes and Bell, which is just awesome. They had radio come up and travel. I mean, this is not a huge club, and these are the types of special experiences you get in international play. Now, Monterrey is not going to be that. Monterrey is going to be two heavyweights punching each other in the face. This was very cool and I think very special, and I think a lot of Atlanta United fans now have a club in Costa Rica that they will be pulling for.
You know what's interesting? Heredia, Costa Rica, the city in which Herediano plays, has one international sister city. And do you know what it is?
What is it?
Marietta, Georgia. And I swear to God, I'm not making that up. How about
amazing.
that, huh? So Herediano plays in the sister city to where Atlanta United has their training ground, which I think, unbelievable coincidence, right? But I know this was a really little thing, but one thing that really warmed my heart was when we were leaving Costa Rica last Thursday. Jason, you and I were getting a lot of tweets from Herediano supporters from Heredia, from Costa Rica, wishing that we had a good time, wishing that we'll come back. And one of them had a hashtag, Atlanta United Herediano Brothers. And I really feel that there has been a little bit of a brotherhood forged between the Atlanta United supporters and the Herediano supporters over the last 2 weeks. And what John described last Thursday with the kid exchanging, at halftime doing the international substitution signal and exchanging kits, it sounds like it was very peaceful again at Fifth Third Bank Stadium last night. Herediano is one of those clubs where it almost feels a little bit like a small town in Georgia that has a powerhouse high school football team, and the community really rallies around that team, like down in Moultrie with Colquitt County, for example. It's kind of a similar feel with Herediano, where there's a lot of civic pride around that club, but it also is very tight-knit, and it feels like a family. And last night, we welcomed their family into Kennesaw, and I hope we showed them a good time. But it was incredible to see. You're right, Jason. Hundreds of Herediano supporters there last night. Radio from Costa Rica coming up. It shows you how much they cared about having this opportunity to play against Atlanta United. And in a way, and we even talked about this off the air last night, I kind of felt bad for them a little bit after the match last night. Because, they got embarrassed. They lost 4-0. I thought the series was much, much closer than the 4-0 scoreline indicated last night. Just an awesome experience to get to know and meet those people. I really, really hope Atlanta United's back in the Concacaf Champions League, and we have an experience like that again. It may not be against Herediano. Maybe it's against, Guastatoya or Alianza of El Salvador or one of those smaller clubs in a smaller Central American nation, because that's where you really feel the soul and the heartbeat of this game.
All right, Mike, we're back in business on Sunday, traveling up into what could be a winter storm, it appears. This is going to be fun. Broadcast plans for Sunday are a little different, so let everybody know where we're going to be.
So we'll be on Star 94.1 in Atlanta Sunday at 5:30. You can also still stream the broadcast in the usual ways. The Atlanta United app will have it. Radio.com will have it, though you'll have to go to Star 94. We'll also be on Sirius XM channel 157. But in Atlanta, if you want to listen to the radio, there's a Hawks game on 92.9 on Sunday. So we'll be on Star 94.1 at 5:30.
All right. I will see you at the airport Sunday morning, Mike.
Pack a coat.
Yeah, a couple of them.
Layers.
It's going to be a cold
warmers.
Yeah. Well, man. MLS starts again, and this is going to be the weirdest opening to an MLS season Atlanta United's had. But you're right. I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be fun because of the YOLO nature of it. So I'll see you then, Mike.
All right, guys. Take care.
Be good.
Make sure you're following him, Mike Conti 929 on Twitter. We're going to take a quick break, come back, talk a little bit more about the start of the MLS season this weekend, and Doug Robertson of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution will join us in just a bit. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, March 1st edition. Let's talk some international slots and what this could mean for Atlanta United on Sunday. Now, with Anderson Asayadou's signing, you have 12 international players for 8 spots, unless there is a green card announced or Atlanta United says, what are international slots to MLS? If they follow the rules, which is a big if these days, but if they follow the rules, this is the way it will go down, I think. So you have Asayadou, Barco, Escobar, Gallagher, LGP, Gressel, Hernandez, Pity Martinez, Dion Pereira, Florentine Pogba, Eric Remedi, Gordon Wild as your international players. If you see a loan, and I would absolutely be doing this, it should be okay, I would think. I don't know exactly if there is a rule to stop it. But if you see a loan for a day or two of Escobar, Gressel, Pity, and LGP to ATL UTD2. So you could field Gallagher, Hernandez, Pereira, Wild, Pogba on your roster on Sunday. It would make a ton of sense. I think in the long term, Asayadou is going to play most of his minutes with Atlanta United too. Right now, he's going to play on Sunday, I would assume. I think you'd like to have Hernandez, Pereira, Gallagher, everybody available for Sunday so you can rest guys ahead of Monterrey. So you're going to have to get a little creative with it. And by all accounts, that's completely legal. It's not LA Galaxy legal. It's completely legal to move your international slots around, and people are in different spots. You just can only have 8 on your roster at one time. That's the number of international slots you have. With Atlanta United having a second team in-house, you can loan guys back and forth to clear them from your MLS roster to make room. The only way it gets tricky is where they fit into roster spots, and that's where we don't know that yet in terms of who's on a senior roster spot, who's on a reserve roster spot, who's on a supplemental roster spot. That's the part that could prevent you, if you're following the rules and not LA Galaxy rules, for guys like Barco or LGP or Escobar to be loaned to ATL UTD2 and a player to come into a spot if they're not on a senior roster spot. That's the weirdness of MLS rules. Maybe they don't mean anything anymore. I don't know. But these are the things that why that Galaxy situation is really weird. Atlanta United is going to have to manage their international slots, especially early, because you're in a situation where you need Aseyadu, Hernandez, Gallagher, Pereira, Wild. But Wild's been making 18s. I think Wild is going to be a first-team player this year for the most part. These guys you need on Sunday. You might need them next Sunday as well. You're going to have to get creative with how you manipulate these international slots, John.
Yeah, and this is why Carlos and Darren and everybody in the front office gets paid the dollars that they are. And these are the roster chainsaws that we see during the season, and they know how to juggle them. And so I'm sitting here scanning through the official roster rules and regs, trying to figure out what it is. They have the listings for loans from USL up, but not from MLS down, and that's what I'm chasing right now. But these are the chainsaws that you got to figure out early.
Yeah, I don't think it's too complicated, although it's MLS and who knows. I think it's going to relate to where they fit into the roster. Like, you have 20 senior roster spots, you have 5 reserve, you have 5 supplemental. So if you loan, for example, Barco's in a senior roster spot down and you bring somebody up, can a player who would be reserve or supplemental roster eligible, can they fill a senior roster spot for a short period of time, and then can they become a reserve roster spot or a supplemental roster spot as needed? That's something I don't know if we really know at this point. I don't know if anybody's pushed that envelope. But, man, there's envelopes to be pushed right now. So push them, and you figure it out, and you go from there. But, yeah, Anderson Aseyadu signing, I think, means he's in the lineup on Sunday. He's in the 18. He's definitely in the 18 and potentially in the starting lineup. What are you expecting out of that lineup, John, before we go to break? I mean, is there anything from somebody we haven't seen too much of yet that you really want to see on Sunday? What are you looking for?
Romario and Andrew. That's what I'm looking for. Those are the two up top that I would like to see. And then if Gordon Wild gets some run, we know how lethal he is, and he has zero fear from launching anywhere inside his own half. I wish conditions would be better so we could get a better gauge of the growth of their game. I mean, we saw Romario post up last night and get some minutes to fill in, but I'd love to see what Romario is developing. I'd love to see what Andrew is developing into, although I know that his hair is chasing Breck Shea's for best run so far early in the season. And then, the other guy, Gordon Wild. Those are the three that are at the top of my list. But I think that I think that my sample size is going to be meteorologically challenged this weekend.
An absolute wild card for Sunday is a performance from Patrick Okonkwo. This is a kid playing with a ton of confidence right now. He's on a first-team contract. Good year with Charleston last year. We saw him in Chattanooga with the Twos last weekend. I thought he looked really good. He's shown an ability to play out wide, and in the 3-4-3, he could play as one of the wide forwards on one side of Romario. That opens up some possibilities. Maybe not as a starter, but maybe in the 18. Patrick Okonkwo is my absolute wild card pick for somebody to have an impact on Sunday. Let's see what Doug Robertson thinks. We're going to take a break, get Doug on the line. We'll make our predictions for Sunday, which will be I have coins ready to flip for this one is basically where we're at. It's going to be a difficult one to call, but we'll give you a few things to look for ahead of Sunday evening. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. March 1st, Soccer Down here, 1 day away from the start of the MLS season. Atlanta United will be competing on two different fronts early in the MLS season. Concacaf Champions League quarterfinals start next week against Monterrey. The MLS season starts on Sunday against DC United. I'll be there. Doug Robertson will be there as well. What's up, Doug?
How are y'all?
Good. Tired. Trying to recharge ahead of Sunday because the games are going to come fast and furious here when it comes to Atlanta United. Let's talk about last night first. I mean, it was a dominant performance from the opening whistle. Joseph Martinez's goal was the earliest one for Atlanta United in its history. It wasn't even the first shot on goal, which is craziness. Julian Gressel forced the save right before that. What was the difference for you from last week in Costa Rica to last night in Kennesaw?
This team still, to me, is so much about it needs something good to happen early, and then it kind of finds its mojo. I think it's been like that for 2 years. And when Gressel got that shot early, I think the team kind of said, yep, this is going to be a good night. And off they went. And Herediano, it was just the exact opposite script of last week. Herediano came out and looked flat and kind of just disjointed. And Atlanta United looked like a team that was in the middle of its season. I just tweeted a bit ago when arguably your least effective player was Pity Martinez, you know that you probably had a good night because he still played pretty well.
And then, Doug, there's another guy that I want to get into with you before we talk about Gressel and Barco, and it's Breck Shea. And what he was able to do on the left last night, whether it was offensively with taking advantage of a really sharp angle and cutting back, and Joseph having an easy slam dunk goal, and then coming back defensively and helping out at the back line, especially in the second half as LGP was nursing that yellow. What were your takeaways of Breck Shea last night?
Yeah, he looked good going forward. Most of his crosses were put into really good spots, dangerous spots. There was one which after he hit it, you could see Joseph Martinez telling him to bend it more. so that would curve back into him so he could have a better angle to attack. Going forward, he did very well. Defensively, he had one really gigantic head-scratching moment. But, defense is not really his thing. It's going to be a work in progress for probably the rest of his career because it's not something he really had to focus a lot on through the first 20-something years of his career. So when you get that kind of opponent that you think is just going to sit back and you're not going to have to worry a whole lot about, which I guess was what Herediano decided, Shea is going to be a great option at that left wing back. If it's going to be a team like Red Bulls that's going to press you all over the place, I'm not sure I would put Shea in there at left wing back.
Let's start looking ahead to MLS. We'll get to the D.C. match in just a second. But start of the new season, I think it's a year that last year we saw some unprecedented growth around the league. We also, have talked about it, some different trouble spots around the league as well. It's a growing league. There are some groups that are maybe having some issues keeping up. As you look at the league on the field in 2019, who are the teams that you think have a legitimate chance to win MLS Cup at the end of the year?
Atlanta United, Red Bulls, LAFC. Sporting KC, I'm still not quite sold on. I know they're a good team. I still, like we said 2 weeks ago, I don't know who's going to score the tough goals for them. And I saw somebody that said Graham Zusi should be considered for Defender of the Year, and I don't think the defense is going to be nearly as good this year as it has been in previous years. And then Seattle is, losing Alonso. Chad Marshall is coming off an injury and is old. I think that team has too many question marks. I think it'll be good, but too many question marks to win the MLS Cup. So that's probably my four teams.
So then if there was a team outside the four that you think might be able to make that run from, say, lane 8 and maybe a surprise, who do you think your surprise team or teams in each conference would be?
Oh, that's a good question. Y'all need to let me do some prep work before you put me on the
keep you on your toes.
Especially when I'm just flat worn out. So the team that could come out of lane 8, Philadelphia. I'll say Philadelphia. I really like what they've done.
I like that call.
And in the West, let's say Galaxy. They'll go as far as LeBron takes them.
Well, especially if Giovanni Dos Santos can play as a 4th designated player.
Yeah,
yes.
They get 15 designated players. Life is good.
It makes it a little bit easier to be competitive. Yeah, I agree on Philadelphia completely. I think they're a team to watch, and I think Jim Curtin has some pressure on him because he's on a 1-year deal. I think he has to show improve, and I think they've got a squad that can compete. I really do like the Marco Fabian signing. I like the Sergio Santos signing up top. I think they're better positioned than probably they've ever been to be competitive in the East. Out West, I'm totally with you on Seattle. I worry that they might miss the playoffs. I think it's lights out. The door is closing on Seattle right now. I just don't know if Chad Marshall can keep it together. It looks like Roman Torres is not going to really factor in. You're missing Osvaldo Alonso, too, and he's an underrated loss for the Sounders. I think they might miss the playoffs at the expense of Minnesota United.
Yeah, I've been down on Seattle for 3 years now, and each year they've stuck it in my eye. Minnesota, Heath, as I wrote, and you can find on AJC.com and in Sunday's paper, has yet to lead a team to the playoffs, and I don't really see why that's going to change this year. I would love for them to, because I think the fans deserve to get to see the playoffs. They're a great fan base, and it's going to be a great stadium. But I just don't think Heath is the guy.
I think he's going to have to be. If he's not by midseason, if it doesn't look like they're getting into the playoffs at the midway point, I think he's out. I think it is absolute playoffs or bust for him to stay in Minnesota. And he's got the roster now that is a playoff roster, in my opinion. And we'll see if he can get them there.
Yeah, it's a Good, yeah. I mean, they upgraded all over the place, but I just don't know if he can figure out how to use them.
It's going to be interesting to see. Well, let's look ahead to the opponent for Atlanta on Sunday, DC United. I think they're a contender in the Eastern Conference. I think they have no margin for error when it comes to injuries because their roster is so thin at the moment, and they really don't have a lot of help with a second team because they have 3 guys under contract there. DC as an Eastern Conference contender in 2019, what do you think?
Yeah. They look
that was not convincing.
No, they look so good for that stretch last year, the second half of the season, and then they got to the playoffs and they just kind of ran out of gas. They don't have Assad this year, but they did bring in, I think it was Lucas Rodriguez. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, who's a dynamic talent. You know, a lot of people love Knuth. I'm not as high on him, but I look at defensive midfielders differently than I think everybody else in the world does. And they just don't have, to me, a lockdown defender just yet. An LGP, for example, or even a Miles Robinson, as well as he's played these first 2 games. So that's going to be a little bit worrisome if I were a DC United fan. I think they will make the playoffs, and probably easily. I just don't think that they have enough quite yet to win the MLS Cup.
So how wild a lineup, and that might have been an unintentional pun as to part of the starting 11 for the weekend. When it comes to thank you. When it comes to a possible starting 11, how completely and totally Gordon Wild and crazy could it get for a game that might be difficult to get to at Audi Field over the weekend for Atlanta United?
I think it's going to be massive changes. I think that Brad Guzan will obviously stay. I think you'll probably see 2 of the 3 center backs will probably stay. I think Parkhurst may get a rest, with maybe Florentine Pogba coming in and LGP shifting into the middle, something like that. I think both wing backs will get changed out, but a lot depends upon if Bello is good to go. If Bello is good to go, you might see him play, or they'll hold him and play Shea again. Defensive midfielder Remedi will come out for Larunowicz. I think Romario might come in for Joseph at striker. Viaba come in for Barco. Vasquez come in for Pitti. And Carlton come in for Nagby. Because they dropped points here. They got 33 games to make it up. They can't go to Monterrey and lose 3-1 again and expect to be able to overturn that result at Mercedes-Benz. Correct. I think you're just gambling a little too much with that. So they got to field a strong lineup at Monterrey.
Yeah, it's first choice against Monterrey on looks like Wednesday. We're waiting on official confirmation.
It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday.
Okay. I know Monterrey's tweeted that out. It is. We know. We're waiting on, I think, Atlanta and Concacaf to officially announce it. Concacaf's a little slow sometimes on these things.
I heard from someone who knows that it's affiliated with Atlanta. It's definitely Wednesday.
There you go.
The team's flying from D.C. to Mexico on Monday, for example.
Doug
press conference
Robertson,
on Tuesday.
AJC with that one.
It's now the return leg. I can't guarantee yet, but I assume it's going to be Wednesday because that's how the scheduling has worked.
I would think so because Monterrey plays on Saturday, so their schedule is they're on Saturdays for the next 3 weeks. Atlanta United's on Sundays. That makes it a little more difficult. Wednesday's pretty much the best day to make it work with the league schedule that both teams have to balance, and Atlanta gets a little bit of an advantage here because you're looking at a trip to D.C., and I think the questions you bring up about D.C. United are completely valid. Then they get Cincinnati, an expansion team, will be playing their second match. Then you get Philadelphia, which will be tough on the third one. But Monterrey, their schedule is brutal. They go this weekend to Chivas in Guadalajara. Then they come back to play Atlanta midweek. Then they host Tigres, who's currently 1 point ahead of them in first place, which is their crosstown rival. Then they come to Atlanta. I want to see how Monterrey balances things, because I don't know if they're going to have as much of an opportunity with a fan base that, while they're 5-0-3 this year in Mexico, they didn't look great against Alianza in CONCACAF. And the fan base is kind of wondering, all right, this is good, but something seems to be missing. Something doesn't seem to be clicking here. I think they have all the pressure on them in this quarterfinal matchup.
Oh, yeah, I definitely. I mean, I think any team from Mexico is going to have the pressure, regardless of Atlanta United being the champions of MLS. Mexico has won the past 10. That's a streak that they don't want to see broken, I'm sure. And Monterrey as the Apertura champ. They won the Apertura, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. They still need to show that we're better than the MLS champ. Now, kind of going back to your other point about Cincinnati, if Atlanta United does drop points against DC, they can't drop points against Cincinnati. So I think you'll see the strongest possible lineup for that game. But Atlanta United's got to be strong at Monterrey. They got to field their best 11. I think it'll probably be the same 11 that you saw last night down there in that beautiful stadium in that beautiful setting. I sounded like Rocky Hudson here. I'm going off on a diatribe. I don't know where it's going to end, but I'm just going to keep it going.
It's the unknown right now with balancing league and cup, because Atlanta's never been in this situation. And if you go back through Frank de Boer's history in Ajax, where he had these situations where, the Netherlands only had one automatic qualifier into the Champions League. In the last couple years that he was there, they finished second in the league, and they had to go into the qualifying rounds. Those start before the regular season starts for many clubs. So he's went through this before in that regard. What he did there, and you got to remember preseason, he had much more time there. You didn't have to deal with a players' union that only allowed a certain amount of days of preseason training. That does change it. But he went first choice in league matches and those Champions League qualifiers early on. He went first choice for a lot of it. I think because of the preseason here, it's going to be more rotated, but how rotated is the question in DC and against Cincinnati, and how things change week to week. It's going to be tough to balance.
Yeah, the team is deep.
They are.
So you could say that they're arguably the deepest team in Major League Soccer because, they were starting 3 years ago building toward this as a hopeful possibility. But they do need to keep these guys fresh. They've got to get playing time. And playing with the twos is not the same as playing with the MLS team. De Boer, for whatever reason, didn't use all 3 substitutions in Costa Rica. So someone didn't get an opportunity to get some legs in that game. He did use it last night. But having so many versatile players is going to help a lot too, I think. I was thinking about it last night when I was wondering if LGP was going to be pulled at halftime because of his yellow card. And I started kind of looking at permutations of who could slide in at center back. And there were 3 or 4 players that could have done the job, especially with the team up 2-0 already. So I think that's going to help De Boer a lot too.
When it comes to this opening 2-leg with Herediano, what are some of your other takeaways? I mean, it could be off the field stuff, could be travel stuff, could be anything that comes across your head about certain players. But what other takeaways did you have from this first experience of Atlanta United in a hemispheric competition?
I think that someone had put on my Twitter timeline, it was like the Toronto game last year, the game in Costa Rica. And you saw how Atlanta United responded to that with an MLS Cup run. It was the same kind of response last night. Herediano, other than in the final minutes, really never threatened. Miles Robinson locked down the right side. LGP locked down the left side. And the combination of Parkhurst and Remedi and Nagby kind of locked down the middle. I'm going to be really curious to see how Monterrey tries to attack Atlanta United's defense, because they weren't getting past Robinson last night. He was faster than everybody. He was if they tried to go over the top, he would just head it away. If they got the ball around him, he would just catch up to it. So the development of the back 3 from the first to the second game was hugely important to me. And then also just the quality of the crosses that were coming in the second game compared to the first game was also huge. We talked about that on Soccer Down Here, that if yesterday, that if Herediano tried to sit in the blocks, the team was going to need crosses coming in just to bypass the lines, and that's exactly what they did, and got a couple of goals, either just from good play or from bad plays by Herediano.
Yeah, longer passing combinations, longer possessions allowed Shea and Gressel to get forward a little bit more into those positions. It was little things that changed. Probably the biggest thing that changed is you score in the first minute, and everything turns on its head. Let's get into predictions. Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought Barco was a lot smarter. I'm going to write a feature about him, and basically the lead is, everyone thought Pity Martinez was going to be Miguel Almiron's replacement, and last night it was Barco. He was doing a lot of that Almiron stuff, and he was smart when he would get the ball. It wasn't like the first game when he would get the ball and go 100 miles an hour down the field and leave everybody behind him. And then, Atlanta United was facing superior numbers. Last night, when he would get the ball, he was mostly under control, except for the final minutes when, it was 3-on-3 or 3-on-2, and he could go as fast as he wanted to. But he got everybody involved. And, that's a huge thing that he just needs to learn. It's just a matter of maturity and experience.
All right, let's get into predictions for Sunday. It's a really difficult one to call since we really have no idea what the lineup's going to look like, and we have no idea what the conditions are going to look like either. John, you get to start us off.
Gee, thanks.
Yeah.
Adding up all of the variables with weather and personnel and roster rotation and all of that, I'm going to say it's going to be a sloggy 1-1 draw. I think that Atlanta United gets one on the board. I think DC does as well, but I think that early season stuff adds up to a 1-1 draw.
Doug, what do you think?
I think it'll be 2-1 DC. Just because of the wholesale changes Atlanta United has got to make. These guys, if they do what I think they're going to do, these guys wouldn't have played together before, which is going to make everything really difficult. So I think 2-1 DC United, but it's really not a result to worry a lot about.
Yeah, this one's definitely not a result to worry about because I think when you advanced in Concacaf Champions League, Supporter Shield became less of a priority, and you are worried about positioning for MLS Cup playoffs, but right now you're more worried about Concacaf Champions League and where that can take you. So, with all that being said, I think it's going to be sloppy. I think DC's going to be sloppy. I mean, I watched a lot of their match against Montreal last week, and they look bad. Lucas Rodriguez has not been healthy. I don't know how much of a role he's going to play on Sunday. I wonder if the conditions are going to have an effect on that. I think the conditions are going to have an effect on the quality of the match. I think it's going to be a weird, kind of ugly one. I'm going 2-2. I'm going awkward defending, awkward build-up play from both sides. It might turn into just a direct back-and-forth kind of track meet because nobody can really do much else. If Tito Villalba starts, I think he gets a goal. And
Yep.
Trying to think who gets the other one. Cool. Let's put it down for Andrew Carlton getting his first MLS goal. 2-2. That's my call. Doug, what do you have the rest of the day, the rest of the weekend, leading up to Sunday?
Well, I just booked Monterey.
Nice.
So I'm going to be flying back from D.C. on Monday, hanging out at the airport for a few hours, and then flying from Monterey, or from Atlanta to Monterey. So that'll be fun. All of our preview stuff is kind of populating on HAC.com. Got a great feature on Frank de Boer by Steve Hummer, column from Mark Bradley, my look at the Atlanta United's roster, which doesn't include Asiedu because he hadn't signed when I had to submit it. The 5 keys to Atlanta United repeating, kind of trending up, trending down. I'm going to post a follow-up on Barco after what I thought was an excellent game from him last night. We've got the CONCACAF announcement coming out at 11. I'll post that. At some point, Atlanta United has to submit its final roster for compliance for the 2019 season.
Or maybe they don't.
No, they do. I'll have something on that. I assume that as part of that, there's going to be some announcement of some season-long loans for a couple of guys. You could choose 5 or 6 that might happen. I think it'll only be a few, but among 5 or 6, there'll be a few.
I actually,
so I'll write that.
On that note, on the loan issue, I don't think you might see as many season-long loans, at least early on, because I think you're going to need some flexibility with MLS matches and CONCACAF matches. It's going to be interesting to see how that gets balanced, and you could see some weird loans back and forth on the kind of weekend-to-weekend, day-to-day type of situations.
Okay,
you can set up recalls in them. Yeah, you can set up recalls. So like a guy like Asayadu, I think he's going to play mostly with Atlanta United too, but you're not going to loan him on a season-long loan right now because he could be in the 18 on Sunday.
Yeah, that's true.
It'll be interesting. True. It'll be different because of CONCACAF. It's going to be tough to call, but there will be. I think some of that, it might just not happen until after the CONCACAF run takes place. It's different. I mean, that's where we're at right now, and you've seen different MLS teams handle it differently. It'll be intriguing. But for one thing to say real quick, save up some money, save up your change, whatever it takes to buy the Sunday paper. If you're not a subscriber, as I've said many times, you're not doing this correctly. Because the HAC has supported Doug from day one of Atlanta United to cover this team and make trips to Monterey and make trips to D.C. and go places that really only a handful of beat writers in this league have been able to do, and I don't think any have done it as long as Doug has. The Sunday paper, if you don't have a subscription, is a must-buy. It's MLS Preview. I know Doug's put a ton of work into it. I know the paper's put a lot of resources to it, so go get that and support what Doug is doing, what the AJC has done to commit their resources to this. And, I mean, as we said yesterday, Doug, like they're thinking about a trip to Newcastle to follow a player who's not even on Atlanta United's roster anymore because of the commitment to this product and what's going on, and that should be rewarded.
Well, thank you.
No, you do great work, and you put in a lot of hard work, and people need to know that, and it also should be recognized as such. So keep up the great work, and we will see you I'll see you in D.C. Maybe we can have a throwback podcast afterwards because we're not running.
That would be nice.
Yes, let's do
nice.
that. Let's do that because we
we'll
might have a lot to talk about on Sunday.
All right, we'll talk to y'all later.
All right,
thanks. Be good.
We're going to take our final break, come back, a little bit of stoppage time. We'll see if any other rules around the league have been broken while we've been chatting. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Apelinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life, Young adults of unique determination and experience, an ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Final segment, Soccer Down here. A little bit stoppage time today, March 1st. The start of the MLS season is tomorrow. Games all over the league Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be a busy one as the season kicks off. Lots of great stories around the league and lots of growing pains for the league. And we'll see what happens with this whole roster stuff with the Galaxy by the end of the day, night, tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Let's get
7 o'clock Eastern time Saturday.
Well, that's when their roster gets turned in, and that's when their lineup sheet gets turned in. Sorry, for their match, and there's got to be an answer before that because I don't think the league can avoid publishing the rosters as they always have because they will get lots and lots of messages about it, and I'm sure that's already started. So just keep an eye on it. We'll keep you posted as best we can as we see things pop up. Questions that we have not hit, we're going to try to grab those right now on the Twitter timeline at Soccer Down Here. Tafka asks, where are we on Pereira? Is he going to be a first-teamer or a loaner to ATL UTD2 player? I think he's going to be the latter primarily, but if he's in the 18, if he's in the lineup on Sunday, it wouldn't surprise me a bit. Good 1v1 ability. I think he is still adjusting to a new style of play, a new place to play, some different roles. We saw him with ATL UTD2 against the Chattanooga Red Wolves, and he played as one of the wide players in the front three. He also played as the number 9 a little bit. I've seen him play just a little bit as one of the wing backs as well earlier in preseason. I think you could see him in any of those roles, but these early MLS games are different. So my answer to Tafka's question for the season is he is an ATL UTD2 guy primarily. Early on, he could be a first-team guy and play some minutes. And if he performs, then maybe he changes what he is this season. That's the opportunity that is there for a Dion Pereira, an Anderson Asayadu, an Andrew Carlton, a Romario Williams, for all of them to show that, hey, I get this opportunity in an MLS match. I'm going to make the most of it and make the manager consider me more for the big matches. That's what you do in these situations, and it's the opportunity for a lot of Atlanta United players on Sunday.
Yeah, no, and I'm right there with you. I think that Pereira is mainly an ATL UTD2 player, and it's all about opportunities. And with all the different competitions and compression and all this kind of stuff, it is a game opportunity. When your name is put on the 18, when you're in practice every single day, and you have to show out and show up and make sure to let the coaching staff know that you are 100% ready to go at the drop of a hat, and you're put in an 18 or you're put into an 11, that's your shot. And a lot of folks are going to get those opportunities in this first month of the season and hopefully for a little while longer if Atlanta United stays in their competition. So there's going to be a lot of auditioning going on and a lot of chances for a lot of different players to make an impact.
We're getting messages and seeing things out there that it appears the match against Monterrey is sold out. There are no tickets available for that. That's, I believe, right now. The upper level is not for sale, so that is in the 45,000 configuration. Not really a surprise when Atlanta United announced that season ticket holders would get that match as their 18th ticket. You pay for 18 matches in the season. It was an Open Cup ticket one year. It was a playoff ticket one year. This is the Concacaf Champions League match, which is a pretty awesome additional ticket. So, will they open the full stadium? That's the question now, and it seems like the demand is there. It's going to be an interesting decision. I'd love to see it because I think you could be looking at this matchup in the quarterfinals as one of the highest attended two-leg series in CONCACAF history. And that would be another amazing feather in the cap and another amazing story. Atlanta will not be able to set the CONCACAF Champions League attendance record. It's 80,000 for a match at the Estadio Azteca with Club America involved in 2016. So you can't set that one. That's going to be one attendance record that's just a little bit too far out there for Atlanta United this season, unless you find a way to squeeze more people in. But I don't think that's possible.
Well, you don't want to draw a foul of the fire marshal. That's the biggest thing.
No, you don't want that. And drawing fouls, Andrew Baker's looking for a way to find a penalty for LA Galaxy. He's saying 10 points, but he asked what are the reasonable options as a punishment to stop the team from breaking rules. Points deduction is the only thing that I can think of that doesn't incur the wrath of the Players Association and significantly reduces the chance they get a home game in the playoffs. The wrath of the Players Association, I don't think factors in unless Giovanni Dos Santos agrees to a deal that gives money back to the Galaxy. He's supposed to be paid $6 million. He needs to be paid his $6 million one way or another. If it's over an extended period of time, the Players Association might argue that he's playing years for free because he was supposed to be paid $6 million this year. That could be a little bit of an issue. But I don't think there's any issue about the Players Association unless he takes less money or plays for longer and makes the same amount. So let's put that to the side. The points deduction, look, I think the penalty or the punishment is you don't let him do it. It's not submitting an incomplete roster. It's not submitting, or it's not doing what I think FC Dallas did a couple of years ago, where they had a player injured in the warm-up and pregame. He was removed from the starting lineup, and he should have been removed from the 18 completely, but he wasn't. He ended up in the 18 and came on as a sub, which was against the league rules. That's the way that the game manager, the referees handled it. They screwed up. Dallas messed up, but that's a different one to me. This is one where it's a black or white. It's you are roster compliant or you are not. Now, where it gets into a gray area is if they allow a restructuring of Giovanni Dos Santos' contract. Now, that's a different conversation. I think the penalty thing, it's not going to get to that because the league is either going to say yes or no to Giovanni Dos Santos' contract status. He's on a one-year deal or 1 year remaining on his deal for $6 million. That makes him a designated player. They're going to have to do something to make him not a designated player. That's the question. Do they allow a buyout and then a re-sign at a lesser figure, which would be one way to do it, which they've never allowed in the past? That would definitely be circumventing the rules. They shouldn't allow that. It's not you get what I'm saying? I want to make this clear because I think we've gotten a little off track in how this should be framed. It is what you do with Giovanni Dos Santos' contract that is the league has to make a decision on. Once they make that decision, they're roster compliant. If they say that, okay, LA Galaxy, you can buy him out and re-sign him for $1 million a year and buy it down with TAM. Okay, we're going to allow that. You have to give him his $6 million and then pay him $1 million for this year. And you buy that down with TAM because it's only going to count $1 million on your cap and you buy it down. At that point, he's not a designated player, and at that point, they're roster compliant because they've allowed it. They shouldn't allow that. That's a different conversation. If you allow them to restructure his deal to add more years at the back end for whatever, or you restructure his deal to where it's a new year you're adding on at $6 million next year, but this year it's only 1.5 or 1 or whatever you can buy down. Again, you're circumventing the rules. It shouldn't be allowed. But if you allow it, if you make that decision to say, yes, we're going to rubber stamp this, then he's not a designated player. So they're not going to technically have 4 designated players. That's not going to happen. The league is going to have to make a decision on his contract status and what they allow the Galaxy to do with it before that roster is filed. Does that make sense, John?
Yeah, it does.
Breaking news sounder. Down to. Yeah. Okay, breaking news sounder. Breaking news presented by John Nelson.
The dates and times are set for your CONCACAF Champions League quarterfinals.
Dun, 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 dun.
For the matchup that is the one that is most of concern for folks here in the listening footprint, Wednesday, March the 6th, it's the late game.
In Monterrey.
Yep. And then the home match is 8 o'clock Eastern time on Wednesday the 13th.
Wednesday. Atlanta United go to D.C. on Sunday. Travel up Saturday, play Sunday. Fly to Monterrey. Get ready for leg 1. 10 o'clock start. Central time zone for Monterrey, so 9 o'clock local.
Yep.
That's the big match of the round. And then the return leg, second leg of a quarterfinal with Atlanta and Monterrey. This is the biggest series. It's the biggest series involving an MLS team in CONCACAF history, that's for sure. I have to go back and look to see if we've had any wild rivalries match up in CONCACAF in Mexican teams, and I'm pretty sure we have off the top of my head. I can't think of the year or anything, but involving a Major League Soccer team, this is it. 2019, this is it. This is big. Outside of getting a Monterrey Tigres final, which is possible, that's where the bracket falls, this is as big as it gets for 2019 for what could happen. Everybody's going to be looking at this. Man, now that it's real, now that we have it scheduled, like it was real last night, now that we know the dates, now you start looking ahead, now you start counting down. Look, there's been a lot of questions about 2019 for Atlanta United. What it is, what it can be, what's on the table, what's prioritized. This is all uncharted territory. They get through their first round of 16 matchup against a pesky Herediano side that made life difficult. That's a good thing for Atlanta in the long run. You get a match on Sunday in D.C. where you're going to be able to get some guys some minutes who haven't seen them so far this year. That's a good thing. You know, a good 60 minutes out of Tito Villalba, get him fresh because you might need him either as a starter or a sub in Monterrey on Wednesday. Get a little bit of minutes, for an Anderson Aseyadu to see, can he help you right now? Get some minutes for maybe a John Gallagher or Gordon Wild. Can they help you? Because you never know what's going to happen in the cauldron of CONCACAF Champions League. You could see an early red card. You could see an early injury. You could see anything happen, and right now you need to know who's ready, who can step up if needed. If you need a replacement at right wing back, right now who would that be? I think it'd be Gordon Wild. We haven't seen him there yet. I think we'll see him there on Sunday. Andrew Carlton was in the 18 last night. If you needed a spark off the bench, if you were trailing late and you had to throw people on and you had to go for it, can Andrew Carlton step into that? Can he put the team on his back if needed and make something happen? We've seen it in USL. Can he do that in MLS? We might get the opportunity to see that on Sunday. Maybe we see a Florentine Pogba make his debut. Sunday is a weird one because of all that. This MLS season early on is going to be weird based off what we've seen in the last 2 years. But this is the life that Atlanta United's living these days. It's not the life of, man, we really hope to have a nice seed in the playoffs. Man, it'd be really great if we have a good MLS season. It'd be really great if these things fall into place. You've outgrown that. This is a club that went from, in a very fast way on an accelerated track, that got into college early and graduated last year because they're MLS Cup champions. Now you're in the real world. You're trying to compete on a whole different plane, and you're competing. You're not easing into playing teams from Liga MX. You're going up against the big boys straight out of the gates. Los Rayados are a team that is not to be taken lightly. They are as big as it gets in Mexico. And what's out there for Atlanta United to be able to get a quarterfinal series like this, play in front of a huge crowd in Monterrey, then come back and have a huge crowd at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in a match that means something against Mexican competition. This is the real world now for Atlanta United. D.C. will be interesting. I think Cincinnati will be interesting. I do disagree a little bit with Doug that if you don't get a result in D.C., you have to play first choice against Cincinnati. I think your first choice against Monterrey, leg 1, leg 2, and you then figure it out from there. Because if you get through Monterrey and you get to a semifinal of CONCACAF Champions League, One, you have a break in the schedule, so you're going to play those games without a league game in between. A little quirk that really could work out if you get past Monterrey. But if you get past Monterrey, you're 4 games away. You're 4 matches away. You're 360 minutes plus stoppage time away from potentially lifting a trophy that MLS teams have coveted, that the league has coveted, that people who follow the game in the United States and Canada have coveted, that RSL had it within grasp. They had a hand almost on the trophy. They didn't get it. Monterrey took that one. Toronto FC had a hand on the trophy last year. They couldn't quite reach it. They lost in penalties. Atlanta United is now 6 matches away from lifting that trophy. That's the world that Atlanta United lives in now. There's more going on. There's bigger, brighter lights. All the things of being this big club, this equipazo in CONCACAF. You prove it in this next series. We had questions last night about, does it take a miracle for Atlanta to beat Monterrey? No. It takes Atlanta United playing the way we saw last night. It takes Atlanta United playing with the heart, the grit, the soul that we saw in the postseason last year. It takes Atlanta United believing that they can do it. That's the difference. This is not a small, humble MLS club hoping they can play on the same level as a Monterrey. This is Atlanta United doing the Ric Flair strut into Monterrey next Wednesday night with some swagger. You think Pity Martinez is going to go in humble and shy and hope that he can be on the same field as Monterrey? Did you see him in the second leg of the Copa Libertadores final? Did you see him at La Bombonera in big matches? He's not scared. You think Joseph Martinez isn't going to score a goal in Monterrey and stand there and stare at the crowd and expect them to yell, throw things, whatever? He thrives on that stuff. That's what you're looking at now. This is a new world. This is a new level. This is a new opportunity, and this is something to embrace, not be afraid of, not be scared of, embrace. Sunday is going to be different. League matches early on, it's going to be different. Look at the opportunity that players get. Look at the opportunity that you get to deepen a roster that is already the deepest in league history, in my opinion. And look at the opportunity that you get to face Monterrey at this point in the season to really test yourself. I think they're there. I think they can compete. I think we've seen enough to believe that. We'll find out for real in the next 180 minutes in CONCACAF. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a wild ride. It's going to be a hectic ride. You might need to send some throat coat tea to John because his sinuses might have rebelled against all of this.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll be back next week because he's going to need them.
Think about it. This is Funes Mori, Layun, Maxi Meza, and Pabon. This isn't messing around anymore.
This is a team that hasn't lost in 2019. This is a team that won the Concacaf Champions League 3 straight years. 2011, 2012, 2013. It's one of the big boys. I think Atlanta United's one of the big boys in CONCACAF. I know they think they're one of the big boys in CONCACAF. Thinking and doing it are two different things. And we're going to see where Atlanta United is in the scale of CONCACAF in this next series. Alianza took Monterrey to the limit. Alianza's not Atlanta United. Monterrey has a lot of juggling to do with a trip to Guadalajara and a match against your crosstown rivals Tigres in the midst of this. That gives Atlanta United an opening and an opportunity. They have to take full advantage. And they could be moving on to the semifinals in their first go-around in CONCACAF. People talk about the lessons you have to learn in CONCACAF. You have to suffer a little bit. Atlanta suffered in the first leg in Costa Rica. They might suffer in the first leg in Monterrey. But again, Atlanta United has accelerated the growth process of a club in Major League Soccer. You don't have to come in and be humble and sit and take your punishment and learn your lessons and suffer for that long. You can come in and kick the door down and say, we're here, we're proud, and we're going to compete from day one. They did that in Major League Soccer. They're now doing that in CONCACAF, and we'll see if they can do it in the quarterfinal round against Monterrey. It starts next Wednesday. MLS season starts on Sunday. As Mike Conti said, we're on Star 94.1 on Sunday. Five Stripes Countdown starts at 5:30. Kickoff is closer to 6:30, so we have an extended pregame due to national TV responsibilities. They'll have some pregame on ESPN for you. John Champion, Taylor Twellman on the call there. You can listen to us on Star 94.1. You can listen on the radio.com app. You can listen on the Atlanta United app. Going to be a lot of new faces. Going to be a lot of opportunity on a wet, cold, snowy, maybe windy, bleh kind of day. But that's an opportunity for an Andrew Carlton, a Patrick Okonkwo, a Florentine Pogba, a Gordon Wild, a Romario Williams to step up and say, we want to be part of that party in Mexico. We want to show that we can be counted on as needed. Sunday, they get that opportunity. Wednesday, Atlanta gets an opportunity to show that they can be counted on as a big club in CONCACAF. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a fun 2019. It's going to be a fun next couple of weeks. We'll be back on Monday, 9 o'clock, with an Overreaction Monday. You can react about all the things we've said. You can react about the LA Galaxy's roster, because I think we will be. You can react about the first weekend of MLS. It will be at a different time because I'll be on a plane on Showtime on Monday. So it will be either a slightly later start or a combined package deal with soccer over there for an afternoon drive special, and that's probably the most likely way we're going to solve that. So stay tuned for kickoff time for us on Monday, but we'll be back to talk about the weekend of action in MLS. Get your fantasy team signed up. Check the Twitter at Soccer Down Here for your method to sign up to be part of the Fantasy League. Soccer Down Here Fantasy League, presented by the Jason Wright Agency. Thanks to Jason Wright. Thanks to Steve Apolinsky. Thanks to all of you for listening. Thanks to everybody who made a ton of noise last night. It's going to be fun. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha throat coat, y'all.
That too.